how do we keep Connecticut affordable while still funding education, infrastructure, healthcare, transportation, and public safety? Hi, I'm Beth Grasso. I've been a real estate agent in Connecticut for 26 years, and I'm here to help you not only find your dream home, but love where you live. And in order to love where you live, you need to be informed. I recently attended a legislative breakfast in Fairfield, Connecticut at Fairfield University's Dolan School of Business, which is where several state legislators discussed some of the biggest issues impacting Connecticut residents, businesses, homeowners, and families. The recurring theme throughout the entire morning was one word: affordability. Come on a quick summary with me of all things lifestyle related, business related, financially affecting your pocketbook related in Fairfield and in Connecticut, really, because some of these guys are state elected officials, and you can make your own determination. So our first speaker of the day was State Senator Tony Hwang, and he spoke extensively about budgeting, taxes, and increasing financial pressures facing Connecticut residents. One major issue he discussed was utility costs, specifically the proposed increases from Eversource Energy. So Eversource could be either your electric and or your gas here. An 11% increase in utility costs was referenced, and legislators acknowledged that rising energy bills are becoming crippling for many households, especially seniors and working families. They're already struggling with inflation and cost of living increases, so this was really high on Senator Hwang's list. He also highlighted concerns around healthcare insurance premiums increasing by double digits, and the challenge lawmakers face when trying to balance budgets while also funding state employee raises and essential public services. Another really important local issue discussed involved the town of Fairfield's tax structure. Assessed values in Fairfield reportedly increased by approximately 65%. While commercial values increased, they were significantly lower. They mentioned 17%, but conversations focused on how tax policy affects both residential and business development in local communities. The other issues, of course, are public safety and transportation. These were major themes. When you drive through Connecticut, you will feel the transportation commuting woes. Legislators discussed changing traffic patterns since COVID, roadway fatalities, and growing concerns surrounding impaired driving, and get this, cannabis potency. This was a 5-minute conversation. Another topic that generated great discussion was housing density. They are changing the complexion of downtown a little bit. As I go on my walk, I can see that the little coffee shop and then the barber shop next to it, they both have written in big words, demo, because they're going to be demolished, and an apartment building is going to be built right where that little, it's right downtown, it's right on the old post road. Several legislators acknowledge that while Connecticut absolutely needs more housing options, increasing the density alone does not automatically create affordability. Many residents continue to worry about how overdevelopment impacts traffic, infrastructure, schools, and overall quality of life. The next up on the panel of elected representatives was State Representative Jennifer Leeper. She focused heavily on education funding and social services. She discussed the nearly $190 million allocated toward education initiatives and emphasized the importance of meaningful relief programs for our most vulnerable residents. One issue that drew particular attention was the Homeschooling Oversight Committee, I believe it was. According to some of the discussions at the breakfast, thousands of children are withdrawn from traditional school systems, and they may currently have very little or limited state oversight or tracking. Legislators expressed concern about ensuring student welfare and accountability while still really respecting parental rights. Representative Leeper also spoke about the rising homelessness and food insecurity throughout Connecticut. She emphasized tremendously that responsible budgeting is not simply cutting costs, it's about reducing unmet needs before they become larger social and economic problems later. This is so very true in where I do a lot of volunteer work, which is through the homelessness efforts through the CT Realtor organization. And I can tell you that helping a family stay housed is so much more important than allowing them to become unhoused and trying to get them back in a housing system. And that's primarily because we don't have enough housing. If you learn that somebody needs, for example, a month's rent to stay on top of their current, maybe they had a job loss or they had something. And in order to stay in the housing system, they need to come up with 1 month's rent. Well, that is an easier objective than allowing them to become homeless and getting them back into a housing system. Keep that in mind. You want to divert people. So that's what State Representative Jennifer Leeper, that's what she was talking about. The legislators noted that Connecticut still maintains a strong rainy day fund reserve, which I think everybody would agree is an important financial safeguard during really uncertain economic times, which a lot of people would say we are currently in. Representative Kristen McCarthy Vehe discussed childcare affordability, healthcare access, and housing policy. One major initiative mentioned was a proposed $300 million childcare endowment aimed at helping working families manage the enormous cost associated with childcare. Housing was another major conversation again. Connecticut currently ranks, so sadly, near the bottom nationally in housing growth and availability. And lawmakers, they all acknowledge there is no single easy solution. There was also discussion surrounding Connecticut's 830G and 8002 housing-related legislation and how towns are attempting to balance affordable housing requirements with local infrastructure realities. Remember, we were involved with the Revolutionary War here, and some of our buildings are really old. Healthcare policy was another major topic. Representative McCarthy Vehe discussed public health legislation, vaccine policy standards, hospital taxes, and growing concerns surrounding private equity ownership in healthcare systems. I would never have thought that private equity would be involved, but I'm not in the private equity world, so it was new and interesting to me. Several lawmakers referenced hospital closures in places like Waterbury, where they said 3 hospitals failed, and subsequent concerns that when private equity ownership fails, the taxpayers are often the ones that inherit the financial consequences. Similar concerns were raised regarding nursing homes and elder care facilities. Transportation patterns were also discussed at length. Since COVID, commuter behavior has changed tremendously, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are the high traffic days. You have more residents working remotely or on hybrid schedules, so you can understand the traffic patterns. These legislators also discussed the importance of transit-oriented development while recognizing that traffic congestion remains a major frustration throughout Fairfield County and everybody that commutes on 95 or on the Merritt. Finally, Representative Sarah Hite, I believe I'm saying her name right, spoke about long-term debt reduction efforts, tax credits for caregivers for families, and Medicaid concerns, small business growth, and regulations surrounding artificial intelligence and childcare safety. She discussed proposals involving senior caregiver tax credits. So that would be if I needed or somebody needed to, I believe, take care of an elderly person in their family, perhaps getting a tax credit for doing, for that job. It's a job. And efforts to support, she also discussed efforts to support biotech companies and small businesses throughout the state. So Medicaid funding, nursing home oversight, major concerns, as well as particularly around legislation designed to prevent these serious, huge deep pocket companies having ownership stakes in the nursing homes. I mean, this is really pretty big because I think this was a huge tax liability that had to be taken care of by somebody, fell on the taxpayers. Representative Kite also discussed or addressed Connecticut's ongoing energy challenges. One phrase that I heard or that these officials used during this breakfast discussion was that Connecticut is an energy desert, meaning the state needs more local energy generation capacity. I had never heard Connecticut mentioned like that. Renewable energy initiatives involve solar and wind power, and even hydro or water. They were all discussed as possible long-term strategies to reduce future energy costs and reduce our dependence on outside supply. For example, getting our energy sources from New York. I point that way because New York is that way. At the same time, the legislators acknowledge the frustration so many residents feel regarding utility monopolies and rate increases, that if we don't own them, we can't always control them. There was discussion, though, about how state utility committees must follow strict legal and regulatory frameworks when reviewing requests from utility providers. Our electric bills didn't even look like they look now, where they break down where some of the energy is coming from. Senator Huang is the one that said he brought that up like 5 years ago. So now at least our electric and our utility bills feel more transparent to us. Another interesting topic involved tax policy ideas surrounding, for example, second homes and high value properties, or luxury properties might be how you'd think of them. One proposal mentioned was similar to a Connecticut innovations model, I believe is what they said. I was writing as fast as I could. And that could involve a small surcharge on homes valued above $1 million. Legislators emphasized that all tax and spending ideas remain part of broader conversations about how to responsibly fund state priorities while maintaining economic competitiveness. I mean, we don't want to fall behind, get ahead in one area and fall behind in another. And perhaps one of the most important takeaways for me from the entire breakfast was this: there's no simple solution. There just are none. Nearly every issue discussed, whether it was housing, whether it was healthcare, education, utilities, taxes, transportation, or public safety, they involve balancing competitive priorities all across the board. How do you fund services while keeping taxes manageable? How do you encourage development and growth while protecting quality of life? How do you support working families while also maintaining the fiscal responsibility, tight reins? They're complicated conversations, and it was really valuable to me, and I'm hoping to you, to hear some of the ideas that the legislators openly discuss when talking about both the challenges and the trade-offs involved for residents, for people who live here, for buyers, for people thinking about selling, and business owners throughout Connecticut. These policy discussions matter because they directly affect your daily life or your lifestyle, from utility bills and property taxes to transportation and housing opportunities. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoy hearing updates about Connecticut communities, even the housing, the policies, and how it might affect you and or affect Fairfield County and beyond, keep following and stay in touch. We'll look forward to connecting with you.